space, the necessary additional precautions must be taken.
tuš, tuš, a kod vas je suš. Nemaš ni da platiš gas, šta ti da mi daš? I brz ste mi fuš, fuš, kao prskan kuš. 6-0 iza zavesa i 2 zareza. Go, 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 loco, coco, ajmo mala friki, kažu Niki no, a mi non stop smo 100%, ili si boss ili nisi prosto. Šta ćeš tu, pun je vatre dima svaki put, od malena nisam jedna, kažu ćavo spava tu. Na mom ramenu, zato ajde sipaj mi sipaj.
Module 9. Cranes, derricks, hoists, elevators, and conveyors. Module description. This module is intended for workers who want to learn more about cranes, derricks, hoists, elevators, and/or conveyors. We will discuss the topics of cranes and derricks, helicopters, base-mounted drum hoists, overhead hoists, conveyors, and aerial lifts in detail in this module, along with the safety measures required when handling such machinery. This module will also cover the topics included in OSHA 29 CFR 1926 subparts N and CC. Module learning objectives. At the conclusion of this module, students will be able to distinguish between the different types of cranes, name the procedures for proper inspection and maintenance, summarize guidelines for proper equipment testing and load rating capacities, discuss the proper procedures for crane operators and co-workers, outline regulations for load handling and handling equipment. Lesson 1. General Standards. Lesson Focus. At the end of this lesson, students will be able to define key personnel required for crane operations, identify the hazards associated with crane operations, describe common accidents resulting from crane operations, definitions of key personnel. Click each tab to view the details. Competent person, qualified person, assembly disassembly director, signal person. Key terms. To understand the safety regulations for cranes, you need to know the definitions of some key terms. Crane, hoist, boom, boom stops, brake, block, jib. Anatomy of a crane. 1. Upper shift. 2. Jib. 3. Jib mast. 4. Main hoist line. 5. Main block. 6. Lattice boom. 7. Counterweight. Hazards associated with crane operations. OSHA's analysis of crane accidents in general industry and construction identified an average of 71 fatalities per year. A study conducted by OSHA showed that nearly 30% of work-related electrocutions involve cranes. Although mechanical failures represent only 11% of the causes of crane accidents, they may result in major accidents involving injuries, fatalities, substantial material costs, and negative media coverage. Studies and analyses show that mechanical failures are frequently due to the result of a lack of preventive maintenance or adequate training, and/or experience on the part of the personnel involved. Cranes and associated rigging equipment must be inspected regularly to identify any existing or potentially unsafe conditions. Regular inspections should be conducted before and during use. If there are problems, necessary repairs must be made before continuing work. Preventive maintenance must also be performed according to the crane manufacturer and/or the supplier specifications. Windows in the crane cab must be made of safety glass that prevents distortion, which could interfere with the safe operation of the crane. Crane hazards. The following are some common examples of crane hazards. Improper load rating. Excessive speeds. No, unclear, or improper hand signals. Inadequate inspection and maintenance. Unguarded parts. Unguarded swing radius. Working too close to power lines. Improper exhaust system. Shattered windows. Missing or inadequate steps, guardrails, or walkways. No boom angle indicator. Not using outriggers. Planning before startup. Adequate ground conditions are essential for safe crane operations because the crane's capacity and stability depend on having the proper foundation on which to work. If, for example, the ground is muddy or otherwise unstable, a crane could overturn even if operated within the load limits specified by the manufacturer. You must not assemble or use a crane unless the ground is firm, drained, and graded to a sufficient extent that, with the use of supporting materials such as blocking, mats, or cribbing, adequate support is provided. The proper assembly and disassembly of lattice boom and tower cranes and the setup of hydraulic boom cranes, including outriggers, are critical to safe crane operations. When assembling or disassembling a crane, you must comply with either the manufacturer's procedures or your own procedures, which must be developed by a qualified person. Before the operation begins, the AD director must ensure that the crew members understand their tasks, any hazards associated with their tasks, and any hazardous positions or locations they need to avoid. Follow the listed safety guidelines before initial startup. Level the crane and ensure the support surface is firm and able to support the load. Contact power line owners and determine precautions. Know the location and voltage of overhead power lines. No part of the crane, load, or load line should get closer than 20 feet to a power line. If so, additional precautions are required. Know the basic crane capacities, limitations, and job site restrictions, such as the location of power lines, unstable soil, or high winds. Ensure outriggers or stabilizers are properly deployed when the load to be handled and the operating radius require them. Make other personnel aware of hoisting activities. Barricade areas within the swing radius. Ensure proper maintenance and inspections. Determine safe areas to store materials and place machinery. Follow the listed safety guidelines during operation. Comply with all manufacturer procedures that apply to the operational functions of equipment, including its use with attachments. Do not engage in any practice or activity that diverts attention while engaged in operating the equipment. Do not leave the controls while the load is suspended, unless all of the following are met. The operator remains adjacent to the equipment and is not engaged in any other duties. The competent person determines that it is safe to do so. Barricades, or caution lines, and notices are erected to prevent all employees from entering the fall zone. Comply with the rated capacity. Equipment must not be operated in excess of its rated capacity. Maintain continuous contact with the signal person when one is assigned. If communication is disrupted, stop all crane movements until communication is restored. Accidents. OSHA has identified the major causes of crane accidents to be boom or crane contact with energized power lines, overturned cranes, drop loads, boom collapse, crushing by the counterweight, outrigger use, falls, rigging failures. How do accidents occur? Accidents generally occur due to one of the following factors: instability, unsecured load, load capacity exceeded, or ground not level or too soft. Lack of communication. The point of operation is at a distance from the crane operator or not in full view of the operator. Lack of training. Untrained crane operators are likely to have accidents. Inadequate maintenance or inspection. Cranes or other heavy machinery must not be operated without proper inspection and regular maintenance. Power lines. If it is possible that work will take place within 20 feet of a power line, your employer must take certain steps to ensure your safety. To determine this, the first thing your employer must do is identify the work zone. This can either be done by marking the boundary of the work area and not allowing the crane operator to operate equipment outside of that boundary, or defining the work zone as the area 360 degrees around the equipment, set at the equipment's maximum working radius. If it turns out that any part of the equipment, load line, or load could get closer than 20 feet to a power line, your employer has 3 options for how to proceed. Click each tab to view the details. Option 1, de-energize the ground. Option 2, ensure a 20-foot clearance. Option 3, maintain minimum clearance distances. Option 1, de-energize the ground. If your employer chooses this option, they should confirm with the utility owner or operator that the power line has been de-energized. It also should be visibly grounded at the worksite. Option 2. Ensure a 20-foot clearance. If your employer selects this option, they must ensure that no part of the equipment, load line, or load gets closer than 20 feet to the power line. Your employer must do this by taking measures to prevent it from happening. This could be in the form of an alarm that would alert the operator, a dedicated spotter who is in constant communication with the operator, an automatic warning device that warns the operator to stop movement, a device to automatically limit the range of movement, an insulating device, installed between the end of the load line, or below, and the load. The employer also must set up warnings at 20 feet from the power line. This has to be in view of the operator. It can be an elevated warning line, a barricade, or line of signs. Option 3. Maintain minimum clearance distances. With this option, your employer determines the voltage of the power line and then consults a table that tells him or her the safe working distance for that particular voltage. This may allow work to take place closer than 20 feet from the power line, depending on the voltage. If your employer selects this option, they must determine if any part of the equipment could come within the minimum clearance distance. If it could, your employer must take measures to prevent it from happening. This could be an alarm that would alert the operator, a dedicated spotter who is in constant communication with the operator, an automatic warning device that warns the operator to stop movement, a device to automatically limit the range of movement, an insulating device, installed between the end of the load line, or below, and the load. The employer also must set up warnings at the safe working distance from the power line. This has to be in view of the operator. It can be an elevated warning line, a barricade, or line of signs. Lesson summary. Key personnel who may be needed around crane operations include a competent person, a qualified person, an assembly-disassembly AD director, and a signal person. Cranes and associated rigging equipment must be inspected regularly to identify any existing or potentially unsafe conditions. Regular inspections should be conducted before and during use. If there are problems, necessary repairs must be completed before continuing work. Preventive maintenance must also be performed according to the crane manufacturer and/or the supplier specifications. Mechanical failures are frequently due to the result of a lack of preventive maintenance or adequate training, and/or experience on the part of the personnel involved. Common hazards encountered during crane operation include excessive speeds, unclear hand signals, unguarded parts or swing radius, or no boom angle indicator. Common accidents that result from crane operation include contact with power lines, dropped loads, and crushing and falling injuries. Lesson 2. Cranes. Lesson focus. At the end of this lesson, students will be able to list types of cranes, explain the requirements relating to a crane's load, explain proper guarding techniques, describe the necessary inspections related to cranes. Types of cranes. Among the most commonly used cranes are truck-mounted cranes, of both the lattice and hydraulic types. Crawler cranes, of both the lattice and hydraulic types. Tower cranes. There are several significant differences between these cranes, primarily in boom hoist and load line controls. The somewhat smooth operation of the boom control adjustments on hydraulic cranes may falsely suggest that they are simple to operate. The lattice boom crane's movement, in its boom or in its adjustment in load position, tends to extend and retract less smoothly and may require additional experience to operate smoothly. Other types of cranes. Mobile, hydraulic, overhead, gantry, tower, floating. The differences between cranes are significant enough to require specific training on each type of crane and with each specific model. It may be unrealistic to expect that every crane operator has the requisite knowledge and proficiency to safely and efficiently operate all of the many diverse types of cranes available today. Furthermore, they cannot be expected to move from one type of crane to another without adequate education and training on the specifics of each piece of equipment. Load. All equipment must have the recommended operating speeds, rated load capacities, load charts, and special hazard warnings conspicuously posted. Instructions and/or warnings shall be posted in such a manner that they are visible to operators when they are at their control stations. The operator's manual must be readily available at all times. The procedures applicable to the operation of the equipment, including rated capacities, load charts, recommended operating speeds, special hazard warnings, instructions, and operator's manual, must be readily available in the cab at all times for use by the operator. Load limits and indicators. Overloading is responsible for a relatively small portion of mobile crane accidents. Load and load moment indicators used properly help to ensure that cranes will not be overloaded. In practice, however, they must not be relied upon without the requisite operator skills and experience for these reasons. The device can be turned off or can malfunction. The device may be out of calibration. Operating conditions, such as wind or operating speeds, may be beyond the published rating information. The presence of a load limit device is not adequate to assure safe crane operation. These devices are not fail-safe devices. They are indicators to advise the crane operator of load parameters to support logical operating decisions. Crane operators must know the load limits of the crane and the approximate weight of the load about to be lifted. Load weights can often be determined by referring to shipping documentation that accompanies the load. The weight of working gear, such as slings, spreader bars, and other rigging equipment, should be considered when it may have an impact on the capacity of the equipment. Once the load weight is known, the operator must verify lift calculations and determine if the load is within the load rating of the crane. The operator must also take into consideration certain conditions that may limit the load rating of a crane. The following are some examples. The crane is not placed upon a level ground. There are adverse wind conditions. Side loads may destabilize the crane. Lifting over the side, which places the load at an angle to the center of gravity, may lead to lessened stability. Extensions, jibs, or other attachments are in use. The weight limits of wire ropes, slings, and other lifting devices. Case study. Select the buttons below to explore the comic or get more details. Lifting principles. There are 4 basic lifting principles that govern a crane's mobility and safety during lifting operations. Center of gravity, leverage, stability, and structural integrity. Click each tab to view the details. Center of gravity, leverage, stability, structural integrity. Center of gravity. Generally, the center of gravity refers to the point in an object around which its weight is evenly distributed. The location of the center of gravity of a mobile crane depends primarily on the weight and location of its components: boom, carrier, upper works, and counterweight. Leverage. Leverage refers to the use of a lever and a fulcrum to exert force on an object. Cranes use leverage to lift loads. The rotation of the upper works, cab, boom, counterweight, and load changes the location of the center of gravity, known as the leverage point or fulcrum. Stability. Stability refers to the relationship between the load weight, the angle of the boom's radius, the distance from the crane's center of rotation to the center of the load, and the center of gravity of the load. Stability may also be affected by the support on which the crane is resting. A crane's load rating is generally developed for operations under ideal conditions, that is, a level firm surface. Unsteady surfaces or soft ground, therefore, must be avoided. In areas where soft ground poses a support problem, mats and/or blocking should be used to distribute a crane's load and to maintain a level stable condition. Structural integrity. The crane's main frame, crawler track, and/or outrigger supports, boom sections, and attachments are all considered to contribute to the structural integrity of lifting. In addition, all wire ropes, including stationary supports or attachment points, help determine lifting capacity and are part of the overall structural integrity determining a crane's lifting capacity. These elements may also affect structural integrity. The load chart capacity in relationship to stability. The boom angle limitations that affect stability and capacity. The length of boom and radius in determining capacity. Loads and lifting. Practice opportunity. Instructions. Identify which cranes have load limiting factors. Guarding. Rotating and other moving parts such as gears, shafts, pulleys, sprockets, spindles, drums, flywheels, and chains must be guarded if they are exposed to employee contact. Click each tab to view the details. Swing radius. Guardrails. Boom angle indicator. Supporting surface. Sheaves. Sheaves are the wheels with open grooves that ropes or cables fit around. It should be smooth and free from surface defects which could cause rope damage. All sheave bearings shall be provided with means for lubrication. Permanently lubricated bearings are acceptable. The boom hoisting sheave must have pitch diameters of no less than 18 times the nominal diameter of the rope used. Inspections. Annual inspections. A thoroughly documented inspection of hoisting machinery must be carried out by a competent person on at least an annual basis. In addition to the annual documented inspection, the OSHA standards require a visual inspection before and during each shift and an additional inspection at least once a month. The employer must maintain a record of these inspections and their results. The following must be inspected or identified on a regular basis: air pressure, possible leaks, tire pressure, clearance for rotating superstructure, wear on wire rope, any physical damage to the crane, loose or missing hardware, nuts, or bolts, fluid leaks. Wire rope used as a load line must be inspected as part of the shift, monthly, and annual inspections. During shift and monthly inspections, all rope that is visible must be inspected. During the annual inspection, the entire length of the rope must be inspected. Remove from use. Immediately remove damaged or defective wire rope from use. Wire rope should not be used if any of the following conditions are observed. In running ropes, there are 6 randomly distributed broken wires in one lay or 3 broken wires in one strand in one lay. Where of 1/3 the original diameter of outside individual wires with kinking, crushing, bird caging, or any other damage resulting in distortion of the rope structure. Evidence of any heat damage from any cause. In standing ropes, there are more than 2 broken wires in one lay in sections beyond end connections or more than 1 broken wire at an end connection.
Ja nosim krvave dijamante. Pamtim zore i zlatne kore, otkad sam ovde samo more, te noćne more i danju sanjam, a opet sve reće zovem i odem od onih što vole, neka tonem do kilo zlata. Daj, najhladnija mi zima, ova soba puna dima, a u srcu je praznina. Daj, darina, prošlo je za sekund sve godine ove. Pratim jednu zvezdu što ne vine otve. Vrati me u reku što vodi u moj svet. Daj mi ljubav vernu da oprostim moj greh. Darina, najhladnija mi zima, ova soba puna dima, a u srcu je praznina. Darina, ona me celog ima, od mora do planina, mi samo smo praznina. Ajde dođi mi tu svrati, kad su se sati, da ti skinem naki. U sobi kad smo sami, skini do te vampir, želim da te pamtim. A tako si mi lepa, najlepša na svetu, Bože neka shvati. Da od toliko žena, samo tebi opet želim načas da se vratim. Ohotela pravo se ladbi mi tu venca, baš tako mi se odmah dopala na keca. Još ko mala znala je da dobija šta nema, zato danas sve što ima palo je sa neba. U životu do sad nikad nisam vidio takvu, lagano ko zmija kada...
Inspections and removal. Practice opportunity. Practice what you have learned.
Ajde dođi mi tu svrati, kad su kasni sati, da ti skinem naki. U sobi kad smo sami, skini odgotela, tela, bela, belo zlato. A baš to mi fali, ostani još malo. Ajde dođi mi tu svrati, kad su kasni sati, da ti skinem mati. U sobi da smo sami, skini bade vampir, želim da te pamtim. A tako si mi lepa, najlepša na svetu, Bože neka shvati. Da je toliko žena, samo tebi opet želim noćas da se vratim.
Lesson Summary. Operators must always account for the 4 basic lifting principles that govern a crane's mobility and safety during lifting operations: center of gravity, leverage, stability, and structural integrity. Rotating and other moving parts of cranes, such as gears, shafts, pulleys, sprockets, spindles, drums, flywheels, and chains, must be guarded if they are otherwise exposed to employee contact. All employees should stay out of the swing radius of a crane. A practical method of making sure that the swing radius is clearly visible is to erect barriers. Crane operators must know the load limits of the crane and the approximate weight of the load to be lifted. Load weights can often be determined by referring to shipping documentation that accompanies the load, and once the load weight is known, the operator must verify lift calculations to determine if the load is within the load rating of the crane. While load and load moment indicators can be helpful for crane operators, they are not always reliable. The device can be turned off, malfunction, or be out of calibration. Operating conditions might be so far from ideal that the published rating is insufficient to prevent failure. Cranes must be inspected annually and removed from use if any deficiencies are found. The somewhat smooth operation of the boom control adjustments on hydraulic cranes may falsely suggest that they are simple to operate. Lesson 3. Cranes and Rigging. Lesson Focus. At the end of this lesson, students will be able to describe safety requirements pertaining to floating cranes and derricks. Describe the safe use of personnel platforms, including platform specifications and rigging procedures. Describe platform-related work practices. Floating cranes and derricks. Always make sure that the rated load of the crane does not exceed the original capacity specified by the crane's manufacturer. To avoid accidents, a load rating chart with clearly visible letters and figures shall be provided with each crane, and it should be fixed at a location where the chart can easily be read by the operator of the crane. In addition, on barges, always secure mobile cranes positively. Note, do not forget to provide the load rating charts to the operators. When installing cranes and derricks permanently on a barge, make sure their capacity and limitations of use are in compliance with current design criteria. Cranes and derricks that have variable angle booms should be equipped with a boom angle indicator. The indicators must be placed where they can be easily seen by the operators. Cranes that have telescoping booms must be equipped with an indicator. The indicator should be visible to the operator. The maximum allowable list and trim while operating a floating crane or derrick are specified in the following table. List refers to how far a vessel leans to one side or the other. Trim refers to how much one end or the other, aft and stern, or front and back, sits more deeply in the water. Personnel platforms. Employers and employees should know that using a derrick or crane to hoist workers on a personnel platform is prohibited in most circumstances. The primary exception is when the conventional means of reaching a worksite, such as a ladder, stairway, personnel hoist, scaffold, aerial lift, or elevating platform would be more dangerous, or if the design of the structure does not allow employees to access the area. In such exceptions, a personnel platform may be used. This restriction varies for work completed under OSHA 1926, Subpart R, steel erection. Also, specific exemptions exist for some work related to drill shafts, pile driving, marine worksites, storage tanks, and chimney operations. It is important that the suspension system and the personnel platform are designed by a qualified engineer or by a competent person qualified in structural design. A suspension system should be designed to minimize tipping the platform due to the movement of workers on it. Moreover, the personnel platform should be capable of supporting its own weight and at least 5 times the maximum intended load without any failure. The activity of hoisting a personnel platform should be performed in a controlled, slow, and cautious manner. Personnel platforms, wire rope, shackles, and other rigging hardware must not exceed 50% of the rated capacity for the radius and configuration of the equipment. Locking devices, pawls or dogs, load and boom hoist drum brakes, and swing brakes must be engaged when the occupied worker's platform is in a stationary position. The following manufacturer's specifications should be met when cranes are used for lifting personnel. Always make sure that the total weight of the loaded personnel platform and related rigging does not exceed 50% of the manufacturer's rated capacity for the configuration and radius of the crane or derrick. The load line hoist drum must have a system, other than the load line hoist brake, which regulates the lowering rate of speed of the hoist mechanism. This system or device must be used when hoisting personnel. Guardrail and grab rail systems. A guardrail system must be placed on each personnel platform. The guardrail system should meet the requirements of Subpart M. In addition, the guardrail system must be enclosed from the tow board to mid-rail with expanded metal having openings no greater than 0.5 inch. The installation of a grab rail inside the entire perimeter of the personnel platform is very important, as it provides something to hold onto should the platform shift unexpectedly. Access gates. If access gates are installed in the area, make sure that they do not swing outward during hoisting. In addition, to prevent accidents, the gates must be equipped with a restraining device. Headroom on the platforms. In order to stand upright on the platform, headroom should be provided for the employees. Furthermore, hard hats must be provided to the employees working on the personnel platform to protect their heads from falling objects. Rough edges, welding, and markings. Always make sure that all rough edges are smoothed or surfaced, as they could injure employees who come into contact with them. Only a qualified welder who is familiar with the weld types, material, and grades is allowed to perform all welding of the personnel platform. The personnel platform should have a plate or other permanent markings that indicate the platform's rated load capacity or maximum intended load and the weight of the platform. Occupancy of the platform. Only necessary employees required to perform the work, can occupy the personnel platform. The platform can only be used for employee tools and materials necessary to perform the work. When employees are not being hoisted, the personnel platform should not be used for hoisting tools and materials. Rigging platforms. If you are using a wire rope bridle to connect the personnel platform to the load line, always make sure that each bridle leg is connected to the shackle or master link and that the load is equally divided among the bridle legs. Master links, shackles, wire rope, and all other rigging hardware must be capable of supporting at least 5 times the maximum intended load without failure. Furthermore, when using rotation-resistant rope, The slings must be capable of supporting at least 10 times the maximum intended load without failure. Bridles and associated rigging for attaching the personnel platform to the hoist line can only be used for the platform, necessary employees, their tools, and the materials necessary for work. When bridles and associated rigging are not hoisting personnel, they should not be used for other purposes. Personnel platform-related work practices. When a platform is being raised, lowered, and positioned, it is vital that employees keep all parts of the body inside, as doing otherwise could lead to an accident. When possible, ensure that the platform is secured to the structure where the work is to be performed. If a hoisted platform is not secured, employees should not leave or enter the platform. In addition, when the crane engine is running and the platform is occupied, the crane or derrick operator should remain at the controls at all times. Dangerous conditions. Do not hoist employees if weather conditions are bad, or if any other indication of impending danger exists. If employees are hoisted and a dangerous situation arises, they should be grounded immediately and safely. Always remember, when employees are suspended on a platform, not to lift anything on another of the cranes or derricks load lines, as it could lead to an emergency situation. Rigging equipment for material handling. It is important that workers involved with hoisting and rigging activities are trained in both safety and operating procedures. Hoisting and rigging equipment should be operated only by trained personnel. Training and experience enable riggers to recognize hazards that can have an impact on a hoisting and rigging operation. Riggers must be familiar with the proper inspection and use of slings and other rigging hardware. Most rigging accidents can be prevented by field personnel following basic safe hoisting and rigging practices. Employers must ensure that rigging equipment used for material handling has permanently affixed and legible identification markings as prescribed by the manufacturer that indicate the recommended safe working load. Equipment should not be used without affixed, legible identification markings. Rigging equipment must not be loaded in excess of its safe working load limit identified by the manufacturer. Slings and all fastenings and attachments shall be inspected for damage or defects by a competent person before being used. Damaged or defective slings or other rigging equipment shall be immediately removed from service. Rigging equipment must be removed from the immediate work area when not in use so it does not pose a hazard to employees.
Kvariš bajku kakva si kretenčina. U svojim je sad dodirima, nemoj samo rečima. Da li krenem stigo taksi, šta će biti ja? Jasno je ko dan, kako na mene je pao. Da li mi je jaknu od mene, ja stao. Krenuo da me poljubi, ružu mi je dao. Da li si znao kako fino umem ja da odem? Ne javi se više, nikad znam sve tvoje fore. Možeš bolje jer mnogi se za mene bore. Ide jedno pitanje i bit ću tvoja sve do zore. Koje boje, misliš da su mili oči moje? Gde si gledao, priznaj, bit će lakše odmah za oboje. Reci nešto lepo kako nove minđu šemi stoje. Slaži nešto kaži ili oči neće biti tvoje. Za razliku od tebe ja uopšte noćas nisam bila. Dok tebi nije dobro ne znaš gde ćeš od promila. Da si mi se svideo uopšte nisam krila. Da vas omađijam zato uvek imam stila. Tako nestvarno sve kao s filma. Uopšte me ne zanima tvoga tata firma. Nemoj da mi kvariš bajku kakva si kretenčina. Osvoji me sa dodirima, nemoj samo rečima. Koraci odsjećeni. Karta bez povratka. Nismo mi par. Boli se sve. Još me doludila. Poljubi me da boli. Već okolo sve boli. Pa možda ti kažem da sam baš to želela. Gledaj me u oči. Mi smo savršeni zločini. Vidi se kad svane. Da li to bio san? Kad je kraj, neki kraj, samo neka svira muzika. Koraci odsjećenja i karta bez povratka. Nismo mi par, ali znaj kada upale se svetla sva. Vodiš me do ludila i tada tvoja sam ja. A meni ostali su
Lesson summary. Floating cranes and derricks should never exceed the original capacity specified by the manufacturer. List and trim should be kept within acceptable limits when using a floating crane. Only necessary employees should occupy a personnel platform, and the platform must only be used for employee tools and materials necessary to perform the work. When employees are not being hoisted, the personnel platform should not be used for hoisting tools and materials. A suspension system should be designed to minimize tipping the platform due to the movement of workers. Moreover, the personnel platform should be capable of supporting its own weight and at least 5 times the maximum intended load without any failure. The activity of hoisting a personnel platform should be performed in a controlled, slow, and cautious manner. Personnel platforms should be equipped with guardrails and grab rails with no rough edges. When the crane engine is running and the platform is occupied, the crane or derrick operator should remain at the controls at all times. When a platform is being raised, lowered, and positioned, it is vital that employees keep all parts of the body inside, as doing otherwise could lead to an accident. Employers and employees should know that using a derrick or crane to hoist workers on a personnel platform is normally prohibited. The primary exception is when the conventional means of reaching a worksite, such as a ladder, stairway, personnel hoist, scaffold, aerial lift, or elevating platform, would be more dangerous, or if the design of the structure does not allow employees to access the area. In such exceptions, a personnel platform may be used. Additional exceptions related to specific operations also exist. Never hoist employees if the weather is bad or other adverse conditions exist at the worksite.
Živim kao Barbie, ne sjećam se kad sam plakala, ko kristal u vatri sam, hladna zaspala. Uzmi pa mi razbi, ova ružičasta stakla i nek se izgubim u tami, ispotala sam. Sitni santi, dijamanti na meni dobro stoje, sve mogu da platim, al ne mogu da vratim, za nas dvoje. Predugo je krila sam, i lepo i ružno mi je ista stvar. Gdje su moje krila sad? U sefu zaključano mi je miran san. Treba mi to sada, me nađi do kože, vozi me kroz mrak, ali znaj želim to forte. Kad je noći kraj, daj da razdelimo zore, ko arpeggio-note. Živim kao Barbie, ne sjećam se kad sam plakala, ko kristal u vatri sam, hladna zaspala. Uzmi pa mi razbi, ova ružičasta stakla i nek se izgubim u tami, ispotala sam. Crni dragulj, tužni glamur, zar sam tako htela? Noćas u tvome sam gradu i ne pitaj me 2 put, da li bih tebe srela. Da dignem se iz pepela, da u plamen opet bih poletela. Premalo je vremena, da još sekund prema tebi budem ledena. Treba mi to sada, me naježi do kože, vozi me kroz mrak, ali znaj želim to forte. Kad je noći kraj, daj da razdelimo zore, ko arpeggio-note. Živim kao Barbie, ne sjećam se kad sam plakala, ko kristal u vatri sam, hladna zaspala. Uzmi pa mi razbi, ova ružičasta stakla i nek se izgubim u tami, ispotala sam. Živim kao Barbie. Da li je tuga ili strah, vozim pravo, da li znamo šta je kraj.
Module 10. Ergonomics. Module description. Employees who work in non-office environments are routinely required to carry out tasks that involve movement and physical exertion. These forceful exertions associated with such tasks may lead to fatigue, musculoskeletal disorders, and other serious injuries. This module is designed to help employees identify work-related problems and learn to apply the principles of ergonomics in order to make their jobs less physically demanding, thereby increasing their overall efficiency. Module learning objectives. At the conclusion of this module, students will be able to discuss what is meant by ergonomics, name the factors that may contribute to problems in a non-office work environment, identify the causes of musculoskeletal disorders, apply effective ergonomic principles at your workplace. Lesson 1. Ergonomics in the workplace. Lesson focus. At the end of this lesson, students will be able to define ergonomics, describe the effects of musculoskeletal disorders, MSDs, and how they are caused, identify the physical and environmental risk factors for MSDs, understand the types of injuries and disorders associated with MSDs. Introduction. The science of ergonomics looks for the best fit between the worker and the job conditions. Ergonomics partly involves developing and implementing solutions that make workers safer, more comfortable, and more productive. It also often involves changing tools, equipment, materials, work methods, or the workplace itself. There is a strong case for making ergonomic improvements, both to reduce workers' risk of injury and to improve their productivity. The principles of ergonomics are geared towards adapting the design and engineering of products and workplaces to people's sizes and shapes, physical strengths and limitations, biological needs, ability to handle information and make decisions, as well as their capacities for dealing with such psychological factors as isolation and stress. Musculoskeletal disorders, MSDs. Injuries arising from ergonomic hazards generally fall into the category of musculoskeletal disorders, MSDs. Examples of MSDs include carpal tunnel syndrome, tendinitis, and lower back pain. Most MSDs among construction workers are sprains and strains of the muscles, but injuries to the joints, bones, and nerves are also possible. These injuries often result from constant wear and tear on the body, overexertion, fatigue, and repetitive motions. As a result of the numerous risk factors, construction is one of the most hazardous industries in the United States when it comes to MSDs. In addition to backaches, the most reported areas of pain were in the shoulders, neck, arms, and hands. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS, typically reports that approximately 25% of all workplace injuries in construction are musculoskeletal disorders caused by ergonomic issues like overexertion, fatigue, and repetitive motion. These work-related injuries are among the most frequently reported causes of lost or restricted work time. The average time away from work due to such cases is 14 days. In order to reduce the costs associated with MSDs and avoid the problem of work-related injuries, employers must implement the principles of ergonomics in their workplaces. Because musculoskeletal disorders have been associated with non-work activities, for example, sports, and medical conditions, for example, renal disease, rheumatoid arthritis, it is difficult to determine the proportion due solely to occupation. For example, in the general population, non-occupational causes of low back pain may be more common than workplace causes, Lee Ra et al., 1996. However, even in these cases, musculoskeletal disorders may be aggravated by workplace factors. Medical conditions associated with musculoskeletal symptoms. Conditions associated with MSDs include muscle strain or fatigue, tendinitis, epicondylitis or tennis elbow, carpal tunnel syndrome, other pinched nerve entrapment syndrome, nerve injury or irritation from external compression, arthritis and other rheumatological disorders. Physical risk factors. There are certain aspects of tasks that can increase the risk of fatigue, musculoskeletal disorder, MSD, symptoms, and other injuries. These risk factors can be found in a variety of tasks that an employee is required to carry out and can be divided into two categories: physical factors and environmental factors. Physical factors are fundamentally the interactions between the work area and the worker. They include awkward postures, forceful exertions, repetitive tasks or motions, pressure points, recovery time, vibration,